Welcome to the 25 Days of Empowerment. This is day 22, April 22nd, 2024. And I'm Emiliana Patrick. You can find me at thepatrickpearl.com. I am a breathwork facilitator, an astrologer, an acupuncturist. You can find me at the Student Clinic of Daoist Traditions on South French Broad in Asheville, North Carolina.
And hi, I'm Tiffany. I'm a self-love and feminine empowerment coach, but my messages are for everyone. And you can connect with me on Instagram at TigerLily.and.co.
And the number one message we have for you is this intensity is going to end soon.
Yes. Yay.
You have been in it. We have been in it. It has been intense. And some of you might notice my different background. It's because these transits have really inspired me to make some deep, deep changes internally and externally that are more appropriate and more in alignment. So the first thing we want to talk about is this transit that just happened from April 17th to April 21st, and some things we just want to create the space for acknowledgement of what this transit brought so that we can integrate it more deeply. And the first thing is that every disruption that happened in your life was like a ringing a bell to your true self. It was calling you to some sort of truth about your nature, about your own authenticity, your own being. And it could be something that you were in denial of that you can no longer be in denial of. It could be an action became clear to you that you need to take, or it could have just brought you clarity. And the fact that Mercury was retrograde, you're really receiving messages not from your logical mind, but from deeper parts of your being. And those can be jolting because they can be shocking.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing to bring up is the loneliness that happened to many of us during these days. And that is due to the planet Uranus. Uranus shows us only you can walk your path. Only you can state what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. And only by coming into your own authenticity can you claim your true prosperity. So, Tiffany, do you want to speak a little bit to this lonely quality
Mm-hmm.
and how we can integrate maybe some loneliness we might have felt during these days?
Absolutely. If this resonates with you, I want to offer you compassion. Loneliness is a really hard emotion and sensation to sit with. And it's something that will follow you forever. It is our constant companion. My therapist likes to remind me that I was born alone and I will also die alone. And within loneliness can be a, a sense of power, because on one hand, we like to walk with and be included within groups of people. But sometimes those people are not in alignment with where we are, with our truth, with our spiritual path. And so that's where the power can come in, by saying, yes, I feel lonely. Acknowledging that you feel lonely is the first step. And then saying, but I can be with myself. I can spend time with myself. And when you begin to feel that loneliness, that sadness, what I like to do is just ask myself, what is it that I'm actually feeling and looking for as a counter to this loneliness? Do I want to be included? Do I want somebody to hear me and to listen to me? Do I want to feel like I belong in a crowd? And the power is that you can do all of that for yourself. You can tell yourself, I belong, because you do. We all have our own unique traits that make us really special. And you can embrace that for yourself and say, I see you. You are special. You are magnetic. I love the way that, and insert your favorite trait here. The belongingness. You belong to yourself first and foremost. You are the one who will always accept yourself, flaws, I can't even come up with words anymore. All your eccentricities, they belong to you and you love them. So if you're working through loneliness, I invite you to honor that and come fully into yourself and spend time with yourself. And it is okay. It is okay.
And the other thing that, you know, as you were speaking, Tiffany, there's a real urge at times to fill up that space and to reach for something to make it go away. So I love how you started with compassion and the courage it takes to recognize. I forget who said it. Someone said it, like, the very thing that makes you special, if you are special at all, is the very thing that makes you lonely.
Mm-hmm.
And that was true for all of us in this transit. We got a very clear taste of our own unique being that we cannot really share.
Mm-hmm.
And we realize that there are pieces of other people that we will never know.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a part of being human. And get this, many people mistake happiness for success.
Mm-hmm.
If I, do XYZ, I'm going to live a life more fulfilled. I just need this and then I'll be happy. Or I'll just accrue this and then, my happiness will be greater. But here's the bottom line of this transit. It says that prosperity can only come to you as you uniquely define it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to have a couple of days coming up where we can refine the insights that came to us. We'll get to that a little later this week. But know that if you haven't fully come into that, what does prosperity really mean to me? It can't come.
Mm-hmm.
And it cannot be given to you. You can't take somebody else's definition of prosperity and make it yours unless it is resonant with every single cell of your being.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a process that you have to come to alone.
Yep. Yes. Yes. And that is actually, I am a self-love and feminine empowerment coach. And that is what I'm working with when I'm working with clients. When they come to me and they want to set SMART goals, I don't do it in the traditional sense of you will have this amount of money in X amount of time, and that's how you know you'll have success. I use SMART goals as a framework, and the markers that we are looking for within my framework are sensations, are feelings. It's not, you'll get that promotion. It's, will you feel satisfied in the work that you're doing? And how will we know you feel satisfied? What does that look like for you? Not what does that look like for your company? What does that look like for your parents or these outside influences? It's what does that feel like for you? And once you start moving into the sensations and the feelings, and you come into true alignment with your authentic truth and your authentic nature, then you notice things start to shift. You start to see the silver linings in, for example, that boss that is completely in your eyes neglectful and is not paying attention to you. I might say, well, then do you think it's really a big deal that you showed up 5 minutes late because you wanted some extra time to read in the morning? Your boss is neglectful. She's not going to notice. Can you be a little easier on yourself? And it's small things like that where I do it. I mean, we do need to be on time to work, let's be honest. But some of these things that we see as negative, as things that are taking from us, once we get a better sense of what it is we are actually looking for and what can actually bring us into peace and alignment, might actually be things that are working for us. It's just a little bit of a mindset shift.
Which comes into the next piece of this transit. It was about compromises. It was about seeing and having compassion with ourselves. Where have we made compromises where we haven't been true to ourselves? And maybe it's because we didn't even know that part of ourself was being compromised.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are so much to us that we're only given more of ourselves, little bits at a time. And this week, a whole bunch of ourselves was revealed. And so just notice that certain compromises that you've made no longer feel good. And you might need in the coming weeks to rectify those. I would recommend you don't rectify them until after the 25th, because that's when Mercury goes direct. Just notice, just sit with the discomfort right now of that just doesn't feel right anymore. And there's a sadness here because we want to do it all.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, by coming into your alignment and setting some clear boundaries that says, this is for me, this is not for me. I really wish that this was for me. It makes me sad that this is not for me, but it's not. And just by choosing this is for me and meaning it and knowing it, you're building your immune system, you're building your integrity.
Mm-hmm.
So if you, and you might find in the coming weeks, some choices have to be made. And just notice them. So the last thing I just want to mention here, and I wish there wasn't so much to say today, but there is. So I'm gonna just bring this up. We have a full moon on April 23rd, but the way to work with the full moon is all day today. And tomorrow, April 23rd, until the moon is actually full. And that happens at 7:49 p.m. Eastern time. Now you might say, I don't understand. I thought that working with the full moon, it had to be after the full moon. Well, I have found that that is not as potent, and I'll explain why. I mean, do I really know why? No, it's a mystery. But having sat with this, I'll just share with you my own explorations of working with the full moon, which I've done now for close to 20 years. If I do ceremony before the full moon, and any full moon, I call the Cinderella moon. Because, did I spell? There we go. The Cinderella moon. Why? Because it's a moon of transformation. Now we use that word transformation a lot, but what the hell does it actually mean? Well, look at the story of
Cinderella. His name is Gus. My dog heard you say Cinderella. His name is Gus, and he is named after the little mouse in Cinderella.
There we go.
You would enjoy that. You kind of heard your name, didn't you?
So in Cinderella, there are clear transformations that happen. The rags turn into the dress, the mice turn into the coachman, the pumpkin turns into the coach, et cetera, right? We all know the story of Cinderella. And if you don't, go read it. It's a great education actually in full moon stuff. So anyway, I found that if I am stating to the universe, I have this is the rag, I'm transforming it into this. This is what I'm making space for in my life. And I do that before the exact time of the full moon. The energy, when it becomes full, accepts my invitation.
Mm-hmm.
If I wait until after the full moon, that transformation, by the way, what happens at a full moon? The moon is, we have more and more and more light. Light equates to form. more and more and more things coming into manifestation. That's the waning, the waxing cycle, right? Darkness, we plant the seeds, and then more and more and more light comes, which means we bring it into the form. What happens at the exact time of the full moon? We're at maximum brightness. After that exact time of the full moon, we get less and less and less. So at the exact time of the full moon, I've already stated, here is something at its fullness. Example, I am angry with my brother. This is just an example. I am furious with him, and I have reached the maximum amount of anger I could possibly get with him. And now I'm willing to loosen that anger. I'm asking for it to be transmuted or transformed into raw energy, or into whatever you want that energy to transform into. I ask before the exact time of the full moon, because at that full moon, the transformation has started to happen. I am stating it before. So this is also comes from years and years of me playing with this and, internally asking questions. And nobody knows the full thing. Everyone has their way. I'm just sharing with you one way. So I want to talk about anything you want to add here, Tiffany, at all?
I am just awestruck. Keep going. I love this when you get into like the meat of why it is that we're doing what we're doing.
So I look actually like 24 hours, but really because it's a late full moon, it's all day on the 22nd. You can do this. It's until on the 23rd until 7:49 p.m. The other misconception I hear all the time in my work is, don't I have to work with the moon in the evening? You don't. You don't. It's a window of time. It is just as potent if you do this in the middle of the day or the beginning of the day. It's really, when is the right time? It's when you are ready to do this work. Mm-hmm. That's the right time. So what are the steps? How do we really work with the full moon? One, you get honest with yourself about something. In fact, I'm just going to copy and paste for the brevity of time. Okay. So the first step is you get honest with yourself about something. That could be a circumstance, a thought form, an emotion, a trigger. What has reached its fullness in your life? Mm. What has reached its what are you done with? What are you ready for a change? That's the first thing. If you're not ready for a change, don't work with it during this moon. And by the way, you can use these for any full moon. Okay. Second, you need to feel it. Don't include any filters, and I write it down. I write all of this down. How I feel about it, what happened, who I'm blaming, what I hate, what I regret, anything. Okay. And here is the next one, really, really important. Where are you getting pleasure from the rags in your life? In other words, from this circumstance. This thing at its fullness, it are the rags, are the mice. Mm-hmm. So you might say, I'm not getting any pleasure from this anger. And I would say, great, write that sentence down and then look again. We wouldn't keep doing something if it wasn't benefiting us, even if that benefit is negative. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So look at that. And now this is probably the most important thing. And I'll make it a me. Am I willing to loosen my attachment to this anger? Am I willing, really? This is the point, usually in my ceremony, I cry. If there might be one tear, or there might just be a, mm-hmm. That step is so critical, because this is what is creating the space for the rags to turn into the dress. Yep. It's that attachment, and you loosen it. Then the last sentence, and I'm a writer, so I write this down. I am willing to loosen my attachment to this anger. And you have to mean it. You have to feel it in your heart. Mm-hmm. I am willing to make room for more excitement and more energy or sorry, I'm willing to make room for this anger to transform into excitement, energy, a new way of being in relationship with my brother.
Mm.
I don't even need to know what it is. I'm just looking for something here to change, and I'm taking responsibility for my part. I'm not asking him to change.
Mm-mm.
I'm not asking anything of him. I don't, this anger is at its fullness. Okay. After you do these steps, I burn the paper. And then I make a gratitude list and I burn that too. And you might say, why are you burning it? Well, the moment you're loosening things, you're creating a vacuum and you are stating what you're making room for. But it's always great to invite gratitude in, and it's a great it creates the container. It makes all the transformations easier, and you're burning it because this is the time you're letting things go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the ceremony. And you can do these steps for as many things in your life at the full moon that you are ready for. The only question is, what has reached its fullness? What are you now ready? Don't do something if you're not ready. If you love that anger, if you're holding on to that anger, hold on to it for another month.
Yep.
Any questions before I stop sharing this? Or
No. I just a few little quick points. Going back to the point you made about how we can do this at any time, I want to just remind people of the history behind witches, paganism. And I think part of the reason why we are now conditioned to do these things at night is because there are some people that are going to think it's weird. There are some people that are going to label you as a witch. And I just want to offer space around that, to anyone that might be living at home with somebody who might not be fully supportive of this practice. Then you might do it in the evening, you might do it at night, you might do it in secrecy, but that doesn't invalidate the power that this holds. Or you might be in a place in your life where you can say, you know what, F it, I'm doing this at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and I don't care what other people think about me. So I just want to add a little bit of weight and meaning to maybe why we've traditionally done things at night. And say that it is a-okay to do it at night, and it is a-okay to do it during the day or early in the morning, whenever it fits your schedule.
I
And
once did this I was visiting someone, and um, I just said, would you mind if I used your grill to burn some stuff later? I said, I'm kind of doing, I just said, I'm doing something for me. It
Mhm.
involves burning a piece of paper. Would that bother you? And they, and they're like, yeah, no problem. Because I was looking for a safe place to do it. I've also at one point, parks have the grills that they have. I've
Mm.
also done this like in a park out in nature and burned it in the grill.
Ah, that's so beautiful. I love that.
Um, just because like I just needed to have my own space.
Mhm.
I thought other people would be supportive, but sometimes this is charged. Like this can bring out quite a bit.
Yep.
And that's why it's so powerful,
Yep.
because the moon is not rational. The moon is going to show you what is at its fullness in your life, what is ready for that shift to happen. And sometimes it's emotional.
Mhm.
And so I love everything you said, Tiff. Absolutely correct in everything. It's just mainly like, do this in a way where you support yourself.
Mhm.
And this isn't necessarily, I mean, some people, I guess, would consider it like witchy kind of thing for sure. But just know that fundamentally, we're using a time in nature when there is a natural shift, when there's a natural transformation, and we're pairing that with what we are transforming within us. That is the practical nature of this thing.
Yep.
And then you've set it into motion.
Yep. Yep.
Great.
Last point, because Emiliana is great with words. I, however, struggle. Words are very just difficult for me. So as you're getting prepared, as you're working with this, the dictionary and the thesaurus might be really helpful for you if, like me, you struggle with words. If you're going, okay, I have this emotion that kind of feels like this, but I don't know what the antidote. I don't know where I would go for this emotion. Look in this thesaurus and you will be able to kind of find your way. You can do it with a hard book or just Google it. Because what we're looking for is moving from feeling anxious to maybe feeling excited about something and just finding those um, words that are in opposition might help you find your way. So last point. I
Yeah,
know
and
this is a long episode.
yeah, and it is a long episode, but this is
It's
um
important.
yeah, you don't need you don't a- you might not know what you want it to transform into. So in that case, just say, I am making space, like I'm just going to use the example with my brother. I am making space for my part of this relationship, my anger to transform into what is needed for me to be at peace with this relationship.
Mm,
Like you can keep it open-ended.
so simple and so powerful. Yeah.
So thanks for tuning in and enjoy this potent full moon.
Mhm.